Welcome to my daily review. Today is Wednesday, June 25, right? I think it's June 25th. Anyway, you're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which was up for the third day in a row, all 3 days this week, 61 points, 0.31%. Close at 19,973 after climbing up above 20,000 just for a little minute there. 20,052 and then got the Matambo treatment there and got rejected, but still nice session again, below volume, but I don't really care about the volume. Take a look at the weekly here. You can see this is kind of a breakout week. It's up 2.7% this week, 526 points. You can see it broke out of that little, 3 week little flat ledge pattern, just a consolidation or a backing and filling, if you will, digestion of gains. So the Nasdaq is well on its way to taking out that 20,204. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, maybe next week, maybe for the 4th of July when we're off next Friday. But at some point, the Nasdaq's going to take out that high. I've been saying that for a long time, and I think some people might start believing me. Now, you're looking here today, the Nasdaq closed 2.8% above this 21, which is a magenta line, and a 1.6 above the green line, which is the 10 EMA. But the 50 is now ready to do what the I don't know, technicians will call a golden cross. You can see the 50 at 7.8% and the 200 7.2% above. So pretty soon this 50 is going to trade through. We're going to have a golden cross. We're going to have all four moving averages stacked in this nice trend going forward. The obvious question is how long will this last? I answered this a couple weeks ago, and usually, these rallies last anywhere from 12 to 18 weeks. And if you count them here, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So yeah, from 1 to 5 more weeks more, sure, probably. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And like I said, I do expect to take out that old high of 20,204 from December 16th. Now we had a rotation today into the semiconductor names, and that's always going to benefit the Nasdaq. And the S&P has quite a bit of semiconductor exposure with Broadcom, NVIDIA, AMD. But this was flat today, 0.002, 0.000%. Couldn't be more flatter than that, but still closed well above 6,000 at 6,092. That was an issue until it's not, right? So, and then the IWM was a little, down 1% today. It didn't fare as well because of the rotation into these semiconductor names, and the Dow Jones was down 0.25%. But yeah, the semiconductor stole the show. And then Microsoft, these are the companies that move the indexes. And Microsoft, it was, I wouldn't call it dead money, although I probably have called it dead money for a year now. It's consolidating in a base for a year, and now it's broken out to new highs. Had that 3 weeks tight pattern, and breaking out 3% this week. So Microsoft looks great. But I've just got to point out, people think I bag on these stocks. I mean, they're fine. There's nothing wrong with owning these things. It's just if you want to hit a two bagger or a three bagger, or grand slams, you got to invest in the more the leaner, meaner stocks. They're gonna. We've seen stocks go up 100% in a couple of weeks now. Like Rubrik just went up 100% or more in a very short period of time. But Microsoft's up 9% in the last year, and NVIDIA, which everybody's talking about today because it made a new high, it's up 22%. In the last year. We've seen companies, go up. Like I said, I don't want to get into it, but we have seen, like CoreWeave, which is, it's up 300% since its IPO went in April or something. So that's just what I'm talking about. I don't mean to bash the bigger companies. They move the index. I'm just saying if you want to hit brand slams, you got to take more risk on way lower market cap stocks. And you see my RS list every morning at my website, and those are the companies that are really doing well. Although today they didn't, for the most part, because of the rotation into the semiconductor names, and NVIDIA is certainly one of those. This one is up more than 4% today. You can see the blue dot here indicating relative strength. You're seeing these relative strength line going through the moving averages. So that usually indicates like a buy sign. And I had AMD this morning on my ready list. You could put NVIDIA here at 153.13. Why not? Usually when stocks like this move like this, it takes a lot of demand to move all that supply. They usually go for a while. I mean, a lot of people want a piece of NVIDIA, which had an investor day today, and then Jensen did his PR thing, and he does it pretty well. So, the investors were biting on Jensen's bait. So, yeah, congrats to the longs there at NVIDIA. Meta, and I wasn't going to do this, also looks pretty good here. Cup with handle, moved out, now surfing its 10. Not bad. Amazon, eh, flatlining. Yeah, I said I wasn't going to do this. And then Tesla had a hard time today. I don't know why, down nearly 4%. I guess sales aren't that good. But anyway, I'm going to move on. Like I said, I didn't want to go through the Mag 7. Oh gosh. Okay, I have some EPS stocks. My agenda today is just the earnings stocks, and then I'm going to go through some themes. I'm not going to go through the leading stocks like yesterday. Just some themes like semiconductors, energy, cybersecurity names, some retail, some drugs. Yeah, just a potpourri of stocks, and then tonight's earnings. All right. So that's today's agenda. General Mills reported this morning down 5%. And after the pandemic, these guys really went gung ho because they were gouging people, raising prices. And they even said it on their conference calls. We're raising prices, as much as we can until the consumer can't stand it anymore. And in the middle of 2023, the consumer said, we can't stand it anymore. And this thing has gone sideways to down, definitely in this decline, right? General Mills. So, this is inflationary when these guys are raising prices. So, yeah, I'm kind of glad to see it. And I'm not going to shed any tears for General Mills. They're doing fine. If I go to the weekly here, if I go back, they're paying like 5% to hold the stock. Low PE. I mean, this is what I don't know, they call it like a widow stock, right? I mean, just hold it forever and it goes up eventually, but it pays you 5% to hold this. So every quarter you're getting, if you're on a drip system, you're getting more shares. If you're just getting checks, they're paying you to hold it. So, yeah, nothing wrong with that. All right, FDX, another bummer, down 3%. The CEO, founder, Fred Smith, passed away over the weekend. They reported, and no love for Fred Smith's old company, down 3%. It's got pretty tepid growth here, 1%, 2%, kind of like Apple. But, double-digit earnings growth, not bad. Somebody asked me to look at when I show the weekly charts here, you get the estimates for future quarters. This is your earnings line here, which you want to see it going kind of north here, which it is. But this is the estimates down here, 21 billion next quarter, the August quarter, 5% earnings growth. But this is based on estimates. That all this is just estimates. And good companies usually lowball their estimates so they can beat them. They offer, lowball guidance and then they crush it. And they do the same thing. They lowball it for the next quarter, then they crush it and on and on and on. But I'm gonna show this on a couple of stocks here today that I was asked to show. But anyway, that was FedEx. AVAV. Remember last night they reported, I said, man, that's a grand slam report, and the thing was down after hours. But somebody liked it during regular session here today, and you could see this little pennant type pattern, big run up. What was this? 102 to 202. So it's got a 100% gain, then a little pennant here, and then popped on earnings. This is a low float stock, 27 million, shares in the float, which is pretty low. And once again, here's your earnings estimates going forward, but they crushed it. And investors liked it to the tune of a 22% call it gain today. So congrats to the longs at AVAV Aerospace and Defense Company. All right, that's it for earnings for now from last night and this morning. I mentioned earlier that we saw a rotation into the semiconductor names. This is Broadcom, barely participated here a little bit, up a third of a percent. But AMD, man, AMD, I had this one on the ready list. I really should have had it earlier. when stocks like this move, they really, just like in NVIDIA, there's so much demand to move that supply. And I just got to, I kind of liked it there at that 116 area, the 122. I didn't put it on. You could see this, the 10 and the 21 now driving through the 200, which to me is a buy sign. You can see the RS rating moving through the moving averages here. So to me, this has got buy signs all over the place. 131, I should have had it. I didn't. 144.12, that's the next area that this is going to take out. And I believe, just looking at this, 167.51 is in play. In fact, if I was, a betting man, which I am, I would buy like, 165 calls for, I don't know, September. AMD is going to get there. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. Just, my experience tells me that when these things get going, they don't just have a 1 or 2 day run. They go for a while. And there's your old high there, 167.51. You got 174.05 and 185. So, this is to me just looks like one big base, a stage one base for AMD. And, they're playing the long game here. And if you just look here from when Lisa Su became CEO, this thing was a $1 stock, I believe. Yeah. Now it's 143. So, I know people were really mad at her recently because this stock was doing this in the bear market. But, these are Johnny come lately people that haven't been with NVIDIA. The people at NVIDIA just love Lisa Su and, excuse me, AMD. I'm sure the people at NVIDIA like her too. But she's done a great job for the shareholders at Advanced Micro Devices. And yeah, I just think that this type of action, which it's shown us before, right? It rallies up to new highs and it does this again, just a base, probably going to rally to new highs. That would be my guess for AMD, but it's not going to happen in a day or a week or even a month. It's going to take some time. This is a big battleship, 232 billion market cap, but that one looked fantastic. I did show you NVIDIA, so I'm not going to go over that again. SMCI now is perking up, and this has got a 4780 as a point of interest for me. I would put this on a ready list as soon as tomorrow. I think that could take out the 4780. We'll see how it reacts here, but that's a nice little base here from, what do you want to say that was? Beginning of May, May 16th. Okay. So it's been, 6 week here base. I kind of like the way SMCI is looking. Anyway, I'm going to I'm going to move on because I mentioned the rotation into the semiconductor names today. They came out of some of these momentum stocks, these stocks that have been red hot and just ripping. I've been talking about, two baggers and three baggers. I mean, ASTS, this was on our ready list recently. I did buy this one. I sold some today. They had a secondary offering. Not a big deal. I think it's still a buy here when it pulls back. But yeah, this thing was 22.47 on May 30th. And yesterday, June 24th, it's $54. So this is what I'm talking about when NVIDIA is not going to do that. Microsoft is not going to do that for you. And since we're on to our momentum growth names, I've got to switch over to the five because most of them are finding support at the five and bouncing. And if not, then maybe there's a change in the character in your stock. So you got to watch that. This is ASTS. Like I said, they did the secondary. Maybe one more day of selling. I don't know. But the five today was 48.47. The low was 48.76. So it's approaching this area. Maybe open up tomorrow to the five and then bounce. You don't know. You just got to watch it. But this is, a super strong stock, obviously, with a move like that. I mean, and this is what this is what I'm getting at when I'm talking about these names. Here's what AEVA, this is a $2 stock back in March and it's up to 29. So even if you didn't get it at two, it had this little flat base. It was at seven, then ran up to 29. Now this obviously was, flashing 1874, pulled back to its five, so 13 to 29. So just it's been a two bagger since May 21, so a month, and this is what I'm talking about. In this type of a market environment, you can swing for the fences here. I would recommend swinging for the fences and not just staying with the safe stuff like Apple and Microsoft and Nvidia. and Google and Metal and Amazon and Tesla, and those stocks can go down too. They're fine. I don't bash them. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just for this type of a market, I think you can do better. That's all I'm saying. So I know people don't like it when I say that on Twitter, because a lot of them are emotionally attached to these stocks because they've done so well for so long. The alternative energy names, now I like a lot of them in here, but I only want to own one. I don't want to get, heavily entrenched in one industry group because of the so much rotation in this market. This is LEU. It's done fine, right? It went from what, 49 to 211. So, this is a four bagger in a very short period of time, and it undercut the five today, but still, it's very strong stock. Same with Oklo. It's been strong, pull back to its 21. It's off our relative strength list, but I'm just saying that there was a rotation today out of some of these hotter, momentum names and into the semiconductor names, and that's fine. That's what makes a bull market. We had Sezzle on our list, and it just pulled back today a little bit. Not even to the five. The five was at 150.92, and the low was 153. Same with Dave. Dave's our rich uncle Dave's been on fire. Pulled back to its five today, which was 219. The five was 220, and this one pulled back to 219. So yeah, so maybe it'll bounce tomorrow. That looks like a nice little, short little consolidation period for day, but I'm just pointing out that a lot of our names in our, hot momentum stocks just pulled back a little bit today, including, IBM, which I thought would be up with the group, but IBM has been trading like a quantum name, which it is. And this one pulled back today, 1%, big deal. All right, sorry about that, folks. I'm going to move on. Just pointing out rotation out of some of the momentum and hot names into the semiconductor names. Speaking of hot momentum names, Circle, got to point out something right here. I'm going to get into some of this software names, but Circle has been, first of all, with IPOs, the IPO, it came public at 31, the low is 64. And the low of the IPO day is usually like 99% of the time it undercuts the low. Very rare for it not to. And this one didn't. It went up to 100, found support, went up to 200, found support, went up to nearly 300, got the Matombo treatment at 299. What was that last? Was that Monday? Okay, got rejected. Tuesday, big bar down. Woohoo, $40, 15.5% today, another 11% haircut. It wouldn't surprise me to see this come back. In fact, I fully expect it to come back and undercut that low of $64. I'm not saying it's going to do it tomorrow or next week. Heck, it could go to 400, but at some point, this thing's going to come back to 64. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. The other one in this, IPO group is CoreWeave. Just, I had to trim some CoreWeave today. I'm going to move because there's just too many other stocks doing well, and I don't do well with I know you're playing with house's money. It's never house's money, it's my money. I changed it to the 10 here, even though I shouldn't. It should find support at the 5. It didn't. It now undercut the 10, closed below the 10. You can see the daily range is 7%. You can see that range was $180.25 to $157. That's a pretty big bar there. It's not showing any strength. You can see, it should bounce, is my point. It should bounce pretty quickly. It pulled back recently. It sold back 4 days here, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, and Friday the 13th. It pulled back 4 days to the 10, but you could see it immediately bounce that next Monday and bounced hard, nearly 8% the next day, another 8.5%. And I'm saying right now that it has to do that like immediately, like tomorrow or the next day, or, I don't care where you bought the stock, if you bought it at 50 or 75 or 100, you don't want to see that drawdown from 187 to 157. I mean, that's $30 of profit you just lost, You're never going to sell at the high. I realize that. You're never going to buy at the low. Either you sell too early or you sell too late. I just think that there's too many other stocks in the market that I like that I don't have to sit through a drawdown. Do I think it's going higher? Yes, I do. Also, if you'll notice, the IPO price was $40, okay? And then on the IPO day, it was at 37.46 was the low. Did it undercut that low? Yes. CoreWeave did, 33.52. So it doesn't have the same issue as Circle where it needs to undercut the low of the IPO day, which it will. I'm 99.9% sure it will. CoreWeave doesn't have that issue. And I think CoreWeave's going higher. It's just where does it bounce? When do the buyers come in? You could point to the selling is drying up, which is true, which it did here, right? You got some above average selling a couple days and it dried up. And then what happened? It popped. Now you hear you got above average selling, and now the last couple of days it dried up. Do you expect a pop? Well, I do. And if it does, it's adios muchachos for me because I'm very impatient with stocks like this. This is not, one of those tried and true stocks like an AMD or something. This is very much a momentum name, and when the momentum dies, they can really sell off fast. And I don't want to get hurt. You can't. I don't want to get hurt. I've been hurt before. It doesn't feel good. Anyway, that's enough of that. Palantir. Yeah, this one looked like it wanted to take out the high, and it did take out the high. Let me go like a 30-minute chart from this date here. What is this? The first half hour of June 16th, it made a high of 144.86 and then got the Matambo treatment just rejected here since the 16th. What did I say? Today's the 25th. Yeah. And then it rallied up today at the open. Let me get you to a 5-minute chart. It looked like it was going to just attack 150 there. 147.67 was the high, 15 minutes in, and then it just sold off all day, flattened out, 33-cent loss, no big deal. Just not ready to attack the 150 yet, but this is a super strong stock. Just surfing that 5 EMA like Kelly Slater, right? I got it on the 10 again. Gosh darn it, Marty. Sorry about that. I just had to put it back to the 10 for CoreWeave. See, I shouldn't do that. Don't make exceptions. Yeah, this one's just surfing the 5. Pull back today. What was the 5 today? 141.05. The low was 141.53. So yeah, just as long as this green line's going higher and the stock's following the green line, the stock's going higher. You know, I couldn't make it any more simpler than that. All right, some other software names. I'm going to get to KD. This is one that I wanted to put on my ready list. KD got traded to Houston. Kevin Durant, that is. And I didn't put it on the ready list. I had a bunch of other stocks. I put on Zscaler. And like I said, I got a list of like 60 stocks here. It looks like chicken scratch, but. I put on, I think, four yesterday and four today, and it's just really hard for me to decide. It really depends on the rotation of the markets. And this is a KD. I wanted to put it on. It looked like it was going to rally today, just like Palantir, software names sold off into the close. Still up, 1%, not bad. And since it didn't break out, I could put it on tomorrow. I kind of like this software name. But I don't want to go through all these software stocks. Datadog looking pretty good too. You can see the 5 EMA is traded through the 200. Now the 21's about to do it. So, Datadog I could put on yeah, our ready list, but I just have so many names. I'm going to move on here because I just I could do this all day and it would make a really long video. And I think people's attention span for videos are like 15 or 20 minutes, and I've been making 45-minute videos. So sorry about that. All right, I'm going to move on to the I mentioned Zscaler. I'm going to go to the cybersecurity names. This is CrowdStrike, which attacked 500 today, got rejected like Matombo. A lot of these names, opened up strong and then sold off. Yeah, first half hour, yippee-ki-yay, we're looking awesome, and then they sold off into the close. So a little bit of weakness there, a little bit of selling. Investors don't want to pay 500 for CrowdStrike. I get it. That's why these large psychological numbers are such, barriers and act as resistance just because of that psychology. Zscaler, I did put this one on our ready list today. It's trying to break out of this 3 weeks tight pattern. I like it above 314.64, which was Tuesday's high. Monday's high was 311.71. Made a new high today at 316.44. But once again, like just about every other stock, yippee-ki-yay the first half hour, and then, adios muchachos the rest of the day. There was just no power in the move. So we didn't get the big volume move with big institutions pushing it higher. But if we look at this weekly chart, you can see that 3 weeks tight pattern, and it's up 3% this week, not bad. And if you want to look at the estimates, which somebody asked me to look at the estimates, here's your estimates for Z-scale. And these are just guesstimates, right? I mean, this is what the analysts, they dig in to each group and see how they're doing and prospective business, and they also go by what the CEO tells them for, guidance going forward. So it's kind of a mix of the two, just kind of like a guess. So Zscaler at their next earnings report is expected to deliver 80 cents in earnings and 700 and call it 7 million in sales, and they'll probably crush both those numbers. Top group, cybersecurity group, top 12 out of 197. So those two look good. Rubric, I mentioned this one earlier. Yeah, if you're looking for, two baggers, this was 47 to 103. I mean, in a very short period of time. This is kind of the type of stuff that I'm referring to. This is the type of stuff that I like. The stocks that move like this and not, the NVIDIAs and Microsoft. But like, once again, nothing wrong. I'm not bashing them. It's just, yeah, okay. Rubric just forming a base here, made that high on earnings day and then sold off. Buy the rumor, sell the news. Nothing wrong with this company at all, except for, they need to turn a profit here. They're still in red numbers here on the estimate. So, but you can see they're whittling it down. A year ago, $1.58 loss. Last quarter, 15 cents. So they're heading in the right direction. And like I say, these are just estimates. And they're due to change, and when they deliver earnings, they're going to change because I'm sure these guys are taking market share, and they're going to report, 4 strong quarters here in 2025. I made a whole video on those stocks that I think are going to make 4 strong quarterly earnings reports. All right, one last one in the cybersecurity names. Remember when Okta sold off and sliced the 50, and I said, this is a dead money, you got to get rid of it. I have some friends said, no, I'm going to buy this one here about, well, I don't know, like 108, 110. And I said, you're crazy. This is just the exact opposite of a breakout, like ELF, a breakout that trends higher. Okta is like a breakdown that trades lower, and you don't want to catch these falling knives. So now that 108's turned into 98, so he's down $10 on this thing, and yeah, it might form a base. They got decent sales and earnings growth, but there's too many other stocks heading due north, what they just showed you a bunch. Why would participate with this? You want to buy the best company in the group. I think that's either Zscaler or CrowdStrike or Rupert. Take your pick, flip a coin. They all look fine. This does not look fine. So I just want to point that out to you folks, that even though we're in a strong uptrend, you still have to be really discerning, really selective with your stock picks. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful in this market. So, yeah. So it takes a little bit of discipline, takes a lot of, stock selection and picking your spots. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. Not all the names in this group are ripping. All right. There is a group that is ripping, and it's the Electrical Contract Manufacturing Group. This is FN. I have it written down. I thought I put it on my ready list, and I didn't. It's up 7.5%. And this is the stuff that keeps me up at night. I'm really mad at myself for not including this. Yeah, it's up 7.5%. Now, if I put it on to tomorrow morning, it's kind of late. It's up 4.4% above the five. So, it's just one that, you missed. You just go on to the next, right? And there are others, within this group, they're really doing well. This is Flex. Flex is obviously flexing. This group is a top 10 group, 6 out of 197. That thing just looks fantastic. You can see that cup-shaped pattern. This is what I talk about, that they don't all need handles, right? Sometimes they just get up to their old highs and just rip higher. Let's see what this one looks like on the, yeah, there's a nice little, base. This one says cup with handle. I don't see any handle, but it just got up to its old high and just ripped higher. And you can see the little bit of growth there, kind of tepid growth. Sanmina is another one in this group. Just, destroying it here. Just got this cup, 3 weeks tight pattern. Let me get this on the daily chart. The Solar Brothers are doing their thing. Man, this thing's really flying. This is kind of uncharacteristic for this stock. This is a little slower mover, and this thing is just really acting like a software name here. Yeah, 6% this week. That's I'm not going to say totally rare, but it's a pleasant surprise. So I mean, it usually doesn't move that fast. But the leader in this group, in my opinion, the one that I would like to own would be this one, 144.27 is the buy point. Did I put it on my Reddit list? No, I didn't. Another one that I missed. And it popped above it today. I wouldn't chase it, let it come to you because it's 5.6% above the five. So, like this one gets up to the old high. Maybe it'll handle out and pull back. Maybe it'll just go to 160, 170. This thing really can move. This has gone from 58 to what, 150. It was over 150 today, 152. So you're looking at, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about, instead of buying, NVIDIA and Microsoft. This is 17 billion market cap, not a huge company. Not a fly-by-night either, but man, you're getting, you know, they're just outperforming. How about that? I'll just leave it at that. JBL, some might argue this is the leader in the group. They ramped with earnings last week, and this thing has been up every day since. Volume's starting to trickle down a little bit, but I don't know. You got about 8 days in a row where it's just been just ripping higher. And we can go to the estimates here. Look at this big blue numbers here. You're in the 20s for earnings. We like that. And nothing to say here, but congratulations to the longs. I don't own this thing, but if you do, congratulations to you. All right. I think that's it. Oh no. One that's on our relative strength list that did not pay attention to the rest of those stocks selling off today. This thing was up 3.5%. It made it over 40. Yeah. Closed a tick below it, but TTMI, another one of these electrical contractor manufacturing stocks, just doing its thing. You gotta love it. All right, I think I'm going to skip this group. Maybe not. I'm going to go through it quickly. This is Quanta Services, just making new highs. Looks fantastic. I think I had it on the ready list a couple of weeks ago. That thing's extended now, though, but still probably going higher. Sterling pulled back to the five. This is one of these momentum names, right? From what, 96 to 224. It just pulled back to its five. This one's on our relative strength list. Looking fantastic. So many roads, so many roads. The road pulled back to just a tick below its five. It closed below its five today, but still super strong stock. And the other one I like in the group is PRIM. And it's just got this cup with handle, had a big rally, earlier in the week, and then pulled back today, but still up 3.5% this week. It was down 3% today. So look for that one to break above the old 78.36. Maybe this week, maybe next week. That group's going to get some love soon as well. All right, moving on to energy. Like I said, if I only want to own one name in each group, either Zscaler, CrowdStrike, Rubrik, and then cybersecurity. This is the one I want to own in energy. It's not the fastest mover. It doesn't have the greatest appreciation, but it's a steady Eddie, and it's up 177% in the last year. So maybe I should bite my tongue. Yeah, it's done pretty well. Not like Oklo, but it's doing really well, and it's just you see how tight it trades. That's what I like. It's just a tight trader. Even when it pulls back, it's pretty tight. So that's why I like GEV. It's not going to crash and burn and destroy my portfolio. And it's just a steady Eddie, and I like that. You can't have a portfolio full of core weaves or you'll have a heart attack. I'll have a heart attack. It's too much. CEG, another one that I put on my ready list this week, and it's just, cruising along, surfing the five here, doing nothing wrong. Another one that I like with nuclear component. I did mention Oklo earlier, and I showed that one. Oh, I know what I wanted to show. GNE, I don't know where this thing came from. This is utility. Utility stocks don't move like this. Thinly traded name out of Newark, New Jersey. I don't know what they're doing in New Jersey, but this is a nice little base here. Stage one and just popping. Look at how many weeks in a row with massive volume here. I'll have to look into this a little more. I don't know why this is doing this. I don't know if they, raised their rates or whatever. But yeah, yeah. Genie Energy. GNE is a ticker. That one's ramping. All right. Out of the energy names, I got to go back to the drugs. Showed them yesterday, and after a big move yesterday for Nectar, it followed through today. I was a little surprised with that. Maybe some short covering there. It was up, yeah, 156% yesterday. Tacked on another 19% today. I mean, that is a nice move with this massive volume. So that looks good. Um, There was a CDTX is another one that, had this big move on Monday, 113%. Yesterday, 4, today, 5. I mean, these things are relentless. It was up. Yeah, if you look at the weekly here, this is on approval, right? Double bottom base and approval, 134% move this week. Wow, congrats to the longs there. And of course, Eli Lilly is the big kahuna of the drugs. Just consolidating still on this big base. This is a big stock, so not going to move real fast. You can see this consolidation since last August. So I think eventually it'll get back to what is that, 969 and break through that 1,000 barrier. And it'll probably do it in a pretty short period of time once it starts moving. Maybe after the next earnings report. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the next group of stocks. Oh, the cruise. These guys reported yesterday, and I kind of missed it, but it popped on earnings, had an inside day today. That's Carnival. And so when I see that, I saw Viking, and this is another one that I was going to put on the ready list. I have it right here. Viking at what, 49.58 buy point, but I didn't put it on, and I think it moved with the Carnival report. Yeah, it's up 3.5% this week, not bad. You can see that little pattern there. It's surfing its 10. It popped, yesterday, bounced off support Monday, had a nice 3.5% move yesterday, and just a quiet inside day today, 2.1% above the 5. So maybe it's allowing the moving averages to catch up. But that one looks good as well. And then another travel stock that nobody talks about, our friend Andy out there in Kansas says, nobody talks about this one. It's a perfect travel stock. They talk about all these other travel stocks. This is car, and I thought I was going to take a break today because it had such a big move on Monday and Tuesday. You can see Monday it was up 9%, yesterday 17%. And if you just look at the 5-minute chart here, it looked like it was going to sell off. It was down a little bit today. What was it, like a buck, $1.04, and then it just had buyers into the close. A nice strong closer. That's what you want to see with your stocks, is how they close, and this one's closing strong. Obviously, a move from what, 54 to 175. There you go. There's your three bagger. So yeah, Microsoft's not going to do that. Have I said that before? Yeah, I think I'm pounding home the message. Retail, I mentioned Elf earlier. I like Elf. I like Elf a lot. It gapped higher with earnings, held that gap. Had a couple of these David Ryan ants, with the volume, but it allowed the 5 to catch up, and now it's just surfing the 5, and it closed today 1.6% above the 5. The 21 crossed above the 200. The 50 is ready to cross above the 200. The golden cross. I think Alf moves higher and takes out the 137 and the 147. That's just my opinion. That's your opinion, man. Odd. I think I put odd on the ready list this week and it wasn't ready. That happens. That's trading, right? Yeah, odd is an odd stock. Yeah, last time I put that one on the ready list. It's been really strong. I've got a bet with my buddy here, and he likes odd. I like elf, and so yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Oh, one name that I have to show, kind of like G&E in the utilities. This is PHH. It's cosmetics, personal care based in China. I mean, skincare and cosmetics product. I have no idea about this one. I can just tell you technically that it based here, broke out of a base, based again, and then broke out of a base and has been ripping. So it's probably, likely to base again here, right here about 32, I would say. That's 16 to 32. So that's a two bagger in a very short period of time. Let's take a look at the weekly. Like I said, this is a China stock. IPO'd, didn't undercut the low of the IPO, or did it? Let me go back here. Mm, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to buy this name. I'm going to move on. All right, a couple names I was asked to look at. One that's on our list of relative strength stocks. We had it on our ready list last week. It just moved too high, too fast. It's gone. So I wouldn't recommend buying it up here. 5% above the five, but it certainly is a strong name. I mean, if you own it, it's an easy hold. If you don't own it, you're kind of chasing it, buying it up here. But I was asked to look at, some of these numbers. And like I say, these are just estimates, folks. What you want to see is this green line here, the earnings line heading due north, like Credo is. Yeah, that's a thing of beauty right there. And so the estimates are 190 million in sales next quarter, which is 218%, annual, year-over-year sales growth, and 35 cents in earnings. So it's going from a loss to profit. And like I said, when stocks do that, they usually have their greatest appreciation those first couple years of making, profit, making the big bucks. And you can see the estimates are just going up and up and up on sales and up on earnings. And so the stock is probably going up. I'm a fundamental guy at heart, and technical second, but I know a lot of people just say, oh, just the technicals matter, the chart patterns, all that matters. Well, not really. If you want to hold a stock longer term, they're gonna have to deliver sales and earnings growth for a long, long time, kind of like Apple did for 25 years. All right, that's Credo. I was asked to look at Hood. You guys know I show Hood all the time. One of my favorites. Easy hold here, just surfing the five. It got a little ahead of itself today. It was up to 85.55 in the morning. Once again, it did this, ramp in the morning, the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then it sold off into the close. Still a nice day though, up 1%. You don't want to get it too far ahead of itself, 3.6% above the five. You want it a little closer, trading tight to that five, because then, you get a lot of selling pressure when it gets too extended. Hood, they did their first billion-dollar quarter, 2 quarters ago. Last quarter came in at 927. The estimates for 895, call it 896. Next quarter, 31% year-over-year growth. Earnings 29 cents, 40% growth. Something tells me these guys are going to absolutely crush those numbers. If you've been following Robinhood and what they're doing with their credit card, their mortgage, they're a very innovative company on finance. And that's why I own them, because I think they're just going to do well for a long time. And the last one was ALGM. This is a semiconductor name, so you expect it to be up today, and it was 1.15%. You got to look at the weekly, look at all time frames here. This is a stage one base, really sold off with the market correction. And then we got liberated, and it's up from these lows here from what, $16. Yeah, it's been a two-bagger, so not bad. Once again, you look at the numbers here, we're seeing accelerating earnings growth, accelerating sales growth, and that's what you want to see, when you're thinking about buying a stock, right? You also want to see, cash flow, return on equity, and all that other stuff. If you're buying a stock for longer term, if you're just buying it for a swing trade, then it really doesn't matter. Then you're just looking at technicals. All right, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up, except in the honor of the great Steve Jobs. We stay hungry, we stay foolish, we stay humble. And what else are we going to do? Stay. Oh, we're going to go to Micron. Micron reported after the bell today. They really crushed it. They hit a grand slam. Let me get this out of here. Old news. The stock popped to like 136, and it's only up less than 4% after hours. I'm thinking it's going to do a little better tomorrow on that report. I didn't hear the conference call or guidance or anything. I just saw the top and bottom line, and they really crushed it. So we'll see what happens tomorrow with this one. Normally, when this is the big kahuna of the group, and stocks like Pure Storage, you're going to get a little pin action tomorrow. Pure Storage at 55. I did mention SMCI, another hardware name, down after hours. Okay, 11 cents. Dell. We'll see who gets some of this pin action tomorrow from this report. Now, Seagate should be one. although it doesn't need any help the way it's going. And then WDC, Western Digital, yeah, we'll see who gets the pin action tomorrow. That one looks pretty good breaking out of this consolidation. This little V shape. Yay, V for victory. Everybody should be doing pretty well in the market these days. Should be pretty happy with their performance. Jeffries reported after the close down nearly 3%. Didn't look like anything earth-shaking one way or the other. Who else reported tonight? FUL, HB Fuller up nearly 7%. And then steel company, Worthington Steel. This is a top group, right? It's up 16% after hours. And in this group, you have Carpenter, which is a super strong stock. And then ATI. And this is why, look at this, this is why it's a number two group, right? It's got these powerhouse stocks. And now it looks like WS might want to join the fray. This is only a 11 billion market cap. Carpenter, 13 billion market cap. And then Worthington reported tonight's 1.3 billion market cap. So, man, that's a nice move back above 30 here. It's going to take out this old high of 29 from March. I mean, you're going back a ways here. January, it could make like yearly highs here tomorrow. So that'd be a stock to watch tomorrow. Worthington Steel, kind of a thinly traded name, only 32 million shares in the float, but yeah, one to watch definitely for tomorrow. Beat these estimates here, I guess. These kind of weak estimates. Like I say, these are just estimates. They're not they're a guideline, but they're definitely not written in stone. And anyway, that's it for me. We have plenty to look forward to tomorrow at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Thank you for watching.